All right. We're going live. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. The topic of this video is going to be why the GCR slash DINAR foreign currency revaluation has been delayed for so many years. I attempt to answer this particular question. I received from quite a bit of people. I do apologize for coming before you guys at a late time. It's actually the early morning. Some my listeners on the West Coast may be still up, by the way, which I appreciate you all still rocking with the channel. I'm going to give a disclaimer before I go into the topic. This is not legal advice. Please keep in mind this video is for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only. Once again, do not mistake this as legal or financial advice. I always encourage every individual to please do his or her own homework and research into the matter being discussed. Once again, this information is not to be construed as legal, financial, securities, or tax advice at all. It's up to everyone to seek a competent professional if they feel otherwise. Everyone is responsible for their own commercial affairs. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now, let's get into this. I've received this question quite a bit, quite a number of few of you guys. I appreciate you all that still rock with me, that stay loyal to the channel. And I feel I don't really do, you guys know I haven't done videos on the dinar on this specific topic, by the way, in quite a long time. I've actually uploaded other people I listen to. I've gotten intel from multiple sources. I've gone over that in the past. I even still have contacts out there, a couple. I would say maybe not as high as some people, by the way, but I'm going to intend to give it what's going on from my perspective. And I always encourage you guys cross-reference, as I used to say this a long time ago. I've shared with you all. I've been transparent with how to look for information as close as possible, and I try to stay out of the. I don't get into the fighting between people calling gurus. I don't consider myself a guru. I'm just someone who's done research. I'm knowledgeable on the topic to a certain extent. I do have private sources. By the way, one in particular, I have really received new information, and it may be a different perspective from someone else that may be on the inside. So keep that in mind, and that's why I give a disclaimer. All the information and how people hear things, it may change, and things have changed throughout the years, by the way. And hopefully, if I don't forget, I do plan on going over that. I have spoke to a banker in the past, someone who works in a particular type of field. I will say that this individual had, from what I researched their credentials a long time ago and touched bases with them because I was trying to do some other things, and it appears as though they had a form of a securities license. They had credentials in other areas, as well as accounting, from what it appeared to be. And we had a private conversation some years ago, and they stated to me at the time, and I was hearing this from my actual source that I'm still in contact with for a number of years. This appears to be the case. I was informed that the U.S. Treasury was responsible for the holdup for quite a number of years. By the way, let me say this again. And this source I looked at and could confirm unofficially from speaking to them at the time. They appeared to be very legitimate. They were a listener of this channel. They followed this channel, by the way, and I appreciate them. And I don't know if I shared it with that individual that was the same information I was getting from one of my contacts. And I also had read that on some blogs in the past to show you guys how I cross-reference information. I don't make stuff up. But I was saying modern times, I haven't really been as much in the loop, but I still do from time to time listen to particular calls or intel that is still out there, by the way. One in particular, I have followed for a number of years, by the way. I won't say, or I'll try to refrain from saying the name because I know some people out there don't like some of these people they consider gurus or whatever, XYZ, but I don't refer to them as gurus. I always say they're intel providers because I see the same similar type of infighting going on within sovereign redemption education. And if many out there profess to be Christian or Muslim, you're not supposed to hate or spite on your brothers, your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ or believers in your belief system. I don't think the scriptures, whether it's the Quran or the Bible, you're supposed to be blaming and fighting and bickering and understand and having rules of engagements to show. I show common courtesy and respect the information. And I'm simply a messenger. I'm just sharing this for people out there to dissect this. There's also conference calls out there that are on a word of mouth basis because a lot of this information has gone private, by the way, because I was informed in years past it was too public. And of course, certain individuals, they changed things when information was being put out on public airways. I was aware of that, how some of the alphabet agencies were listening in. I do know they monitor all forms of social media, your digital footprint. I know this for sure. It was even put in the news publicly some years ago. If you guys remember, this was publicly admitted. I actually saw a local news story on this. Remember, Eric Snowden came out some years ago as a whistleblower for the National Security Agency, and I saw a local story separately that stated how they admitted that they were spying on the U.S. citizens, and they said they even went as far as to say that it was unconstitutional. Yes, I saw a report in Detroit, Fox 2 News some years ago with Hugh Perkins. I was at a car shop actually getting my car worked on, and I was in the waiting area, and they had television playing, and I remember clearly because I have a good memory. And it was when I had a previous vehicle, and it was at a shop on McNichols and Myers. That's McNichols, and if you're familiar with Detroit, that's the equivalent of 6 Mile. 6 Mile and Myers, true story. So I don't make stuff up. I can prove everything that I go over when I've talked about things unrelated to this topic. I have supporting documentation. I can point you guys. I'm not saying that in some instances, I've been trained to say in the field that I work in, if something appears to be the case, because I know legally there is a difference how they perceive how things can be validated or proven, you know. But I try to share with you guys the best information and relay it to you guys. So I'm getting ready to get into the meat and potatoes, but that's what a banker shared with me for a number of years. They told me that the U.S. Treasury was responsible for this holdup. I was even informed at one time, allegedly, it appeared the IMF was, by the way, and they have a relationship and have a satellite office, a location in Washington, D.C. I was even informed from a private conference call by another source that at one time Barack Obama was one of the reasons for the holdup. Then I was informed confirmation by someone else that stated that they had said Hillary Clinton didn't want us to access this wealth, this money, because as I said to you guys in the past, keep in mind that the Democratic Party does not specifically, they want you poor. They don't want you wealthy, by the way. Many don't understand. I never tried to make these things this political because I'm not a registered voter. I have not been since 2004. Once I found out, I saw a lot of the corruption locally in the city. Last time I voted was for former Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, and that was in the primaries. That wasn't the main mayoral election in 2004 when this group I was informed by word of mouth basis woke me up to the truth. And I was double red pilled because that year I woke up to not only sovereignty, but also dealing with my true ancestry, history, etc. I won't go into that because that's neither here nor there. But I've been knowing about the DINAR officially since 2006. These private meetings I used to attend. There was one of my contacts there at the meeting used to mention about going to Chase Bank to purchase the DINAR. I remember they said it, and I used to go over my head because I didn't make my first purchase until after the early part of 2011, and that was only because the later part of 2010, a friend of mine was encouraging me at the time that had known longer than I had, by the way, that he said it was getting ready to happen, just like so many years we were pumped up that it was getting ready to happen. And as I put in the title of this video is, once again, why the GCR slash dinar foreign currency revaluation has been delayed for so many years. Because you guys notice we've gone through this so many years. I've told one of my sources a few years ago, and then this person stated they started to feel the same way that I had felt. That you get pumped up. They always make it seem like it's getting ready to happen, and it never comes through. And then other people mentioned, I'm glad that they took action and said that they were that these groups were buying time, because you also had what appeared to be separate humanitarian programs going on that were not being fully disclosed to people in the manner that they should have been, to be transparent. That's caused quite a bit of confusion, by the way. They have been responsible for creating the chaos, the confusion, because out of how does the saying go? Out of chaos, they get peace. They create the problem, come up with the solution. That's called Hegelian dialectic. They create the problem, then come up with the solution. Out of because for the New World Order, out of chaos, then they want the people to beg for peace. But they were the ones that created it. If you read between the lines of what I'm saying, by the way. So to get into meat potatoes, once again, this source told me, this banker I spoke with years ago in a private Skype conversation we had. We spoke for quite a while, and they went into their background, who they were, and everything like that. And I had already checked out their credentials at the time, by the way. And real good, and for good interview. We had good conversation, by the way. And they stated to me once again that the Treasury was responsible for the holdup for a number of years. But I was also informed at one time that there were certain people that had the authority to push the button, the green light. And they were stating at one time, the banks were actually ready. They wanted to go, but they were like in a limbo because they had to get approval from someone from the Treasury. Had to get a green light, but I believe at one time the president had a say so or had pulls in this. So once again, another source mentioned Obama was holding it up at one time. There was some validity behind that information, and Hillary had went as far as to say we didn't deserve this because remember the elites. She's in there with the cabal very heavily, both of those two, and they have an elitist mentality. And Democrats, specifically the Democratic Party, is being used in an instrumental manner. Remember, they want you on welfare. They want you on universal basic assistance. They come off as though they're the good guys. They pretend to be the saviors, the people's champion. But it can be far from true because, unfortunately, a lot of people they know are aware of this, don't pay attention to politics. Now, people nowadays, with more people waking up, more people are starting to actually pay attention to the political issues and are being honest about who is responsible for the gas prices going up. And it's not the Republicans, as Biden's press secretary was claiming recently. Biden was responsible for shutting down the Keystone pipeline, which led to several suicides because they were promised when Trump got back in office at the time, they would have that. And I know there was one faction of the elites, even though they didn't want Trump in, they actually wanted Hillary. They were upset at Obama for cutting off the Keystone pipeline at that time. And see, Biden just followed, the same tracks again. And this to tell you, and you can look this up. This is what I'm going over, straight facts. This is not, I'm just making up stuff. Check out what I'm saying. I did give a disclaimer, but I encourage you all because I have liberals that listen to me. And don't get caught up in your fucking feelings because it's not about your goddamn emotions. Do your homework and do your research. I'm sorry I have to be harsh. I have to use profanity, but I have to drive the point home, because it's an insult to my intelligence. I'm an astute person. I'm very well studied with this information for a number of years. And it's sad some of these same people come to me for help and assistance in other areas that they know I'm skilled in, but will try to discredit me in areas of politics. You need to cut that shit out. And I tell a friend of mine that where his mother-in-law does that crap too. And we know some of the most brilliant people. One of my best friends, even though he knows I don't agree, when I met with them, was it last year or the year before last? We took a photo and everything. He worked Obama's campaign, but he knows how I feel about the Democratic Party. He brought up something, but we didn't bring up politics. When I go over there, but a lot of people, unfortunately, and I notice this, unfortunately, sadly, from a lot of black women, liberal women I come across, not all, but a specific portion, because unfortunately I have been able to meet a couple black conservative women, one in Florida, by the way, a sister, and in Illinois. I've spoken with both very well. It's good to see that they're like the canary in a coal mine, the diamond in the rough. You know how it kind of goes, because that's rare. I know about the numbers and everything, the statistics, but I'm a person that deals with straight facts and common sense, and I have very good common sense. I pay attention to the liberal controlled media. I've had a laptop before most people, average people, were using tablets and Facebook. Matter of fact, I bought this relative of mine. I bought her a laptop in 2010, by the way. So I had my laptop for already several years prior to that. So a lot of those old news stories of, how people share so much stuff like on Facebook and different social media. I had saw a lot of that stuff already. I was already ahead of the game. I had 2 laptops already, thanks to a friend of mine who has a background in IT, information technology. He helped train me, and I have another friend that builds computers, by the way, because I don't know, and I'm not as good as these guys were. By the way, they were busy in their own regards, but I'm just kind of going over this, that some of these individuals will try to discredit when I speak to them in person, when politics is brought up. I bookmark another thing about me. I bookmark articles. I cross-reference multiple information, and I can tell you who's lying or who's telling the truth. And the Democratic Party has been instrumental in certain people within the Democratic Party were trying to keep this RV from happening. Trump was actually pushing for this behind the scenes, according to one particular intel source. I'm not going to say the name of that source, but I will say this other source mentioned, by the way. I was going to say, I'm not going to say his name either, but he specifically stated that Biden, by the way, would not, as long as he was in office, you would not see the RV. By the way, this other particular source, to show you guys I cross-reference information. I'm not saying neither. I do know both specifically. And these are 2 different sources, credible sources, that have their own big followings. By the way, they each have their own large followings. One of them, I would say, is more. They both are kind of private. And as I was saying, going over earlier, a lot of conference calls from back in the day have actually, in particular, have gone more private on a word of mouth basis, because I was informed, and this is part of my notes, that a massive amount of people, including bankers, are under a non-disclosure agreement. Let me say this again: a massive amount of people, because some people were allowed to. I was informed by a couple of sources. This is different sources out there, allegedly, because I wasn't there at the actual exchange location, but this was put out there that there was VIP people who were allowed to exchange, and even one instance where I was informed by a conference call by a guy I never even met had mentioned someone, a high net worth individual. He didn't say the name of. At night, they temporarily changed the rate and raised it to a higher rate just to allow this VIP person to exchange. He wouldn't say the name. And one of my sources had told me that this source that he knows, who I'll say who is a pastor, by the way, who I got a chance to meet some years ago. I don't remember his name. I remember going to a coin show some years ago and meeting this pastor. And this pastor had informed my source, who I'm not saying, that he actually has stated that he saw the rate show up one night, like at a higher amount. And then it went back to basically like the lower. They did it like temporarily. So this correlated with someone that has been hosting conference calls for a number of years. And I said this similar story a long time ago. You guys read between the lines? So I'm not here to make stuff up. Okay, that's a true story. I had an actual source who relayed this to me that has a source that I can vouch for. I actually met, and I had known this person for a long time. By the way, he's just closer to this other individual, and I actually met him before, and he relayed that. Stuff like that. And that's just one particular dynamic of how if you hear how law enforcement, we can corroborate cases, or what detectives do. We can put stuff together. And there's even a website, as I've given you guys in the past, to look up. One in particular called DINAR Detectives has been out for quite a long time. DINARrecaps.com. It's another site. DINARguru.com has been around for quite a number of years. These are credible sites that have been around for years. Once again, DINAR Detectives, DINAR Recaps, and DINAR Guru. And let me say this, because I did give a disclaimer once again. This is not legal. This is not financial. This is not securities. This is not tax advice. I am not an official promoter of these websites. I have not met any of these people. I am just simply a messenger, a credible person who's shown their actual face, who's not hiding behind a ghost account. By the way, you guys have seen my face. I got videos where I show my face. My face is in the profile, by the way. Even though I'm using an avatar right now, but I'm an actual credible person you're hearing this from. And for all those curious out there, because I have people ask me all the time, even when I'm doing lives on other topics, like, hey, Dorsey, is the RV close? Do you know if anything is happening? So I thought it was a good time, I know when a lot of you guys are asleep, by the way, to do a video to kind of give an update as far as what's going on. Let me go over the other notes that I have as well, so I don't pontificate. This one source mentioned the info they used to get in more recent years has been tightly scrutinized. They said things are getting closer for sure. My person told me they were meaning from bankers, because a lot of bankers are under NDAs, and that's why sometimes they can only share so much information with you. And I was aware, I was informed some years ago, a different conference call source out there used to mention, and he used to tell people, don't do this. There were people that were calling up Wells Fargo, going up to Chase Bank, demanding for the RV and stuff like that. And they never encourage people to do stuff like that. In some instances, we think those are provocateurs, potential government agents, like they do false flags. Those are real. But you have genuine people who have been genuinely patient, have been waiting, law-abiding citizens. And we always encourage, don't do stuff like that. It's okay in instances, for one to inquire, but there was people out there allegedly, we were hearing stories, supposedly confirmed by some of the top intel providers, that people were doing this, and this caused greater scrutiny from these provocateurs and saboteurs, people trying to sabotage this. And this, one of my sources thinks there was people doing this on purpose, because the cabal people, they want to keep you poor, like they did with the remember the GameStop situation when they those guys had collaborated on Reddit. Remember when Robinhood had forced people to sell when that GameStop stock was going up, because they were trying to do something to a hedge fund. I know I had a subscriber, someone out there wanted me to cover that topic, but you can look up easily on YouTube what that was about. And a friend of mine who's studying Grant Cardone's classes even told me he even knows and believes beyond a shadow of a doubt that that clearly exposed to him that they didn't want you to have wealth, and the Democratic Party had heavy ties with that. They want, in their eyes, they want you controlled. By the way, they don't want you to be empowered. They want to keep empowerment and control over you. By that's why eventually, some are saying they want this universal basic income. This you already kind of have it in a way with rental assistance, fair housing reform, and some. Now, I'm not saying some of those things I do agree with. By the way, because I can be what they call nonpartisan or bipartisan on certain political issues I've expressed in the past. That is an issue that they've even mentioned on local national news about private equity firms buying up large properties, price gouging people for rents across the country, and playing this back and forth game where it's difficult for people to get a home, and then rental properties are blackmailing people by having a high rent once people, because a lot of people, it's difficult for them to move, or they can't find affordable housing anymore, or a lot of the programs like rental assistance and stuff like that there's certain landlords not accepting that, and there's like predatory, just like with banks, predatory lending practices, and there's greedy landlords out there charging exuberant rates far past and the mark. Now, I do understand where some landlords are coming from. They would try to argue we lost a lot of money during the pandemics, but there has been major investigations done. By the way, if you go on YouTube, in not only the United States but Canada as well, where they had people sit down at a table. I watched this interview where they had landlords, people who were tenants, and they took an actual analysis of what people were paying to see who was really telling the truth. Because at the end of the day, we can get down to who's telling the truth. Because I was debating with the relative recently, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And I told this relative, in my opinion, the Democratic Party is far more corrupt than the Republican Party, because they were harping, because MSNBC is very good at their public relations on blaming everything on the Republicans, because they know a lot of their people who vote Democrat don't, use brainstorming or have a tendency just to vote by the party or practice, what is that called, identity politics, and don't pay attention to the actual political issues. They get caught up in this petty stuff. That, oh, Trump hurt my feelings, or, this, that, goofy stuff. That, oh, this person looks handsome, or this, I love a man in power. These are actual things I've heard people who are supposed to be astute and supposed to be nonpartisan and supposed to be partial and fair, say these types of things. And they were Democrats. That's identity politics. Supposed to pay attention to the actual issues at the end of the day. Who's really doing what? And we need to have forensic researchers investigate this and put this together throughout the years. And I know there's people there's Democrats. I've noticed this from people who are liberals, and I'm not a registered voter, so I'm truly nonpartisan. By the way, I'm from the outside looking in. I can be fair because there's issues that I agree on that a lot of conservatives, even black conservatives, don't support. Like, I'm a supporter of reparations. By the way, don't get it twisted now. I'm fair and balanced. I fully 100% support reparations. I don't agree with Brandon Tatum and Candace Owens on that. I support reparations and have been for a number of years, and and I may be doing a video. I know I've been saying that for it's going on years now, but I already have some content prepared to go in. And there's already been major studies done on African Americans. Black families are owed over $300,000 unequivocally, by the way, from the harm that has been done. And there is evidence that other groups have received for their grievances and damage done to them. They have received monetary compensation or other forms of I'm trying to think of that term. I can't think of the term right now. To help repair the damage. but the damage was never properly repaired. It was addressed to a degree, but it was never properly repaired, by the way. And you want to know who, what particular party, political party in particular, was blocking it, by the way. I can tell you this may come as a shock to a lot of people. This was reported on by Dr. Boyce Watkins, who's been in contact for a number of years with Dr. Claude Anderson, who was very well respected in the black community. And black women, many of them don't know this. Dr. Claude Anderson was responsible for them receiving affirmative action, which they predominantly benefited from because they were considered a double minority as well as white women. Dr. Claude Anderson was one of the pioneers years ago. I was informed by a very credible source that worked on the legislation that was meant to try to help repair the damage because we didn't receive reparations back in the 60s when we should have. Instead, when they gave us welfare entitlement programs, that's what it was called by Lyndon Baines Johnson, which you cannot inherit food stamps and cash assistance and rental. You cannot inherit that. Okay? Let's get this through the big scope, but it was not properly done. So these slick Democrats knew what they were doing, and that's why Lyndon Baines Johnson, this is a fact quoted on record. I'll have those N-words, I'll repeat, voting Democrat for the next 200 years. It's liberals I've spoken with that even know this. They even quoted that, said they were familiar with that. And he was friends with J. Edgar Hoover, former head of the FBI, by the way, who did not like John F. Kennedy. This was known, and Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X and the Black Panthers. He did not like them. This is a fact. And a lot of you all may not know, but Martin Luther King, I just found out recently as I've been doing more research, supported reparations because a lot of Republicans like to quote Martin Luther King's name. So to be balanced, keep Martin Luther King's name out your mouth if you don't support reparations, because he supported reparations, by the way. It's a lot of things he tried to do, and he also was quoted on, this is on record, that he said, "I'm afraid I'm leading my people into a burning house," by the way. This is a fact on record. This cannot be refuted. I'm just relaying it straight from the horse's mouth. I'm just simply a messenger. I wasn't alive during that time, but this was documented, well documented historically. Lyndon Baines Johnson also started referring to him as the N-word. I won't say the term. It's a derogatory term. You guys know the N-word after he had just won the Nobel Peace Prize because he started speaking against black men being disproportionately drafted in the Vietnam War during that time period when they were being egregiously mistreated by the U.S. government, but they felt we were good enough to fight in their war. And that's why, guys, when I mentioned about Ukraine, I didn't mean to be offensive to people when they were trying to get all these black people, minorities, putting up Ukrainian flags on their Facebook accounts and stuff. And I know it sounded like a while ago, Currency 365 has shared my video, which I appreciate him doing. That helped me get exposure out there. Appreciate that, brother. And I got, certain people I'm putting in a special VIP category down the road. He's not going to have to worry about nothing because he's been a supporter of the channel, been a real one. But I know it came off to some people out there. I'm against the war in general. By the way, I want you guys to know I'm against war. I'm not for war at all. Understand that. But the reason I was saying what I was kind of saying about Russia at the time, because there's things in their government I don't agree with either. They have formed their own alliance with other countries because our banking system here, as many of you are familiar with, is corrupt. And I was informed some years ago they had an alliance with this thing called BRICS. BRICS is an acronym for, if you've heard of BRICS nation, that stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And I heard 13 other countries recently wanted to join BRICS because the Federal Reserve banking system, because I'm going to say this, the problem ends where the problem begins, by the way. And they're actually hiding behind, as one of my sources informed me, they're hiding behind the Treasury. There was a documentary that mentioned the old boss is the same as the new boss. So don't get it twisted that they're going to completely go away. No, they're still around out there. And you guys, I won't say some of the names, some of the, some of the names of the families that have a lot of wealth has been causing issues. And there was documentaries that expose this, that were not, this is not my words, but these are actual documentaries, which I gave you guys reference to do your homework, do your research. And I have to slow down and talk like this because I know some people are slow and don't get it. And then there's people out there that say, oh, Dorsey, you repeat yourself too much. I do that to drive the point home. But that's why I do that, because a lot of people are not patient and just want the information or want you to give them everything. But I want you to do the research that I've done. So you would find out for yourself what I'm saying, what I'm going over is highly, highly, highly accurate, high-powered information. I've done a video in the past where I've shown you guys the flow chart of families behind major corporations. These corporations just didn't pop up and invent themselves. They had to have people create them at one time. Look up who founded these corporations, who founded these banks. Where did they originate from? They had to have a source of origin. Where did they come from? Yes, we got to go back to the basics. So there's a saying that the problem ends where the problem began. Where did the problem begin at? Got to go back to the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Got to go back to Jekyll Island, giving you some hints here. You got to watch the documentary Money Masters. You got to watch the documentary Monopoly Man. You got to watch the documentary The Ring of Power, Empire of the City. Ring of Power, Empire of the City. You got to watch the documentary called Changes on the Horizon. Once again, watch the documentary called Changes on the Horizon. Money Masters, Monopoly Man. They're going to properly educate you. Okay? Okay, I'm done. I'm going to get to I had to talk like that, but I have to slow myself down because some people out there, and there's newbies too, by the way, who just simply don't get it. But the information is out there. It's public information, by the way. So let me see. What have I covered so far? Okay, the source said, I already went over that, that the source told me the banks are preparing for blockchain technology usage. I mentioned this like in a couple previous videos. That video, look at that video. I talked about the connection to XRP. One of my sources, my main sources told me the big banks are ready. Smaller banks, they were saying are not, or some smaller banks, but majority, the big banks are ready. By the way, and they're transitioning. This might be the reason why, if you guys have been hearing about people being mysteriously, their bank accounts being shut down, this may have something to do with that, because there's a changeover. This changeover started years ago. It's been in the works for quite a while, from what I was informed. This reset was also supposed to happen numerous times years ago, so it has been delayed. That really is true. It was supposed to actually revalue numerous times. There was one particular Intel provider used to mention that quite a bit. It was supposed to go quite a number of times, and there's reasons it hasn't. Some of the reasons it's come out, the holdups that's taken place, stuff like that. They had to be Basel III compliant, meaning asset-backed currency, had to be backed by gold. Iraq had to have certain things in place, like the hydrocarbon law, the HCO that was in place a long time ago. That was done. The herbal agreement, stuff like that. Lately, intel from Iraq, one of the intel sources was saying major corruption is happening in Iraq, in Iraq's government, but some of the people were accusing the U.S. government of doing something to their banks. So they have been smuggling U.S. dollars out of the country. And this intel source is saying this may be potentially indication that the RV is getting closer, because Iraqi citizens at one time allegedly were using U.S. dollars. So that means if they're smuggling the U.S. dollars out, they're getting ready to reinstate their actual currency, by the way. getting ready to maybe reinstate that. So I hear allegedly one of these sources was saying allegedly U.S. dollars are being smuggled out the country, and one of the reasons when they were charging the Iraq government charged Trump, they said it has something to do with they were upset about the killing of Soleimani. By the way, but this is on a wide scale. This is on a big scale. But this source was saying that there's corruption even going on high up, even within Iraq's own government. But the people over there, because they don't like what's going on, what's happening within their own government, like their own bankers, Central Bank of Iraq, and their people in charge, their prime minister over there, they're using the U.S. as a scapegoat, similar to how the Democrats blame the Republicans for everything. The leaders over in Iraq are using the U.S. government to blame for the Iraqi people. So I hear that they were using U.S. dollars over there. So that could be indication that the RV is close because they're getting ready, allegedly, appears to be potentially reinstating their currency. Because they said before RV takes place, you can also have what's called a RI. That stands for reinstatement, allegedly. It could go straight to a RV, but they could have an RI, which means that's a significantly higher rate, but not as high as a revaluation. And that would be, a RI is a form of a reinstatement, meaning their currency is about to be reinstated. All sanctions, stuff like that, have been lifted, by the way. So one source mentioned different countries, and this source emphasized different countries are going to receive different exchange rates. It could be why some people in other countries may be jealous of the USA because over here we're going to have allegedly a higher exchange rate. It's going to be different from country to country, but this could allegedly be a reason. This appears to be a reason why some people who are aware in other countries that travel and on the inside are jealous that the USA is going to have higher exchange rates. But that's nothing they can do about that because this is not even in our control. This is higher up, and this is on a worldwide scale. This whole revaluation process, let me say this again, it's on a worldwide scale. And I was also informed many years ago, by the way, that they said arrests were happening behind the scenes. And I told one of my subscribers who I'm in contact with, big shout out to, had asked me, I took some notes from the text that I sent her. By the way, this was and then this made national news. But I remember a particular conference call that I listened to. I was able to interpret what they were saying, but they were kind of speaking in code, and they said there need to be cleanup on aisle 3, major cleanup on aisle 3. And I said, oh, that's what I heard translates to the arrests that were taking place behind the scenes. And at one point, this was like reoccurring intel throughout a number of years as I followed this particular conference call. I'm just not saying the name of, because I don't want some people getting triggered. But I have heard this from other conference calls as well to show I'm cross-referencing information that's relayed, and I'm interpreting the information, and I'm bringing it back to you all as a translator, as a messenger, to translate the information back to you all in layman's terms. And at one time, when this source mentioned this, sometime last year, the year before, I noticed right after one of the calls, they mentioned this. I saw a report in the national news that a bunch of arrests had happened worldwide. Well, the same source mentioned something like this not too long ago when I caught up to one of their phone calls. And I can't catch all their conference calls because they put out so many. They put out so many for a number of years, guys. It's like there's a lot of information, even for myself. I've been told by people I absorb a lot of information, but it's even overwhelming because I'm just one man just doing quite a bit and getting a lot of information out there. And you guys know nowadays we're bombarded by lots of information. So please understand that. But I can tell you, this was in the news, and I shared this with my subscriber I'm in contact with, and they said a top Sicilian mafia boss was arrested. They said a top boss. They said, so this person was like head of the Sicilian Mafia, that's big, by the way, because the source has said some years ago that this is going on behind the scenes, that this other intel source could corroborate a separate conference call I used to listen to quite a bit. Said, let me read. I'm reading from my notes that allegedly, who's ever in control of this, they didn't want drug dealers, gangs, gang leaders, terrorists, and other undisclosed groups to receive this wealth. And some other specific group was named. However, the source didn't go into the specific details about this other party that was blacklisted, meaning they didn't want, but these groups were named specifically. They said they didn't want drug dealers, gangs, gang leaders, terrorist organizations, and some other undisclosed groups to receive this wealth. So this correlates. This is another reason, allegedly, why they have been holding it up. They have been making these arrests behind the scenes, by the way. And this has been reoccurring information for a number of years. I think I can corroborate that this is accurate. But you guys can make it out however you want it to be, because I do give a disclaimer for you guys to do your own research, do your own homework. I'm just simply relaying the information and attempting to translate it to you guys in layman's terms to share it with you all. This is not my words, but from other intel providers out there, and you guys can make it out how you want to make it out. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap things up. I'm going to read the comments before I shut this video down. Anthony says, evening, brother. Evening to you, Anthony. Thank you for joining. Hadrupal Sosa Marquez says, peace, family. Peace, family. Thank you for joining. Digger Gold and Shovel says, I agree. And I'm white. Appreciate you. Thank you for the comment. Richie Rich says, thumbs up. Appreciate you, Richie Rich, for joining. Ibrahim says, it has been a long time since we last heard from you. Yes. Appreciate you. Says, Dorsey, the ISX Iraq Stock Exchange will be trade online worldwide on the 29th of January 2023 by Walker. It's happening. I will send you the details. Okay, yeah, definitely appreciate you. Thank you so much. Kangaroo Jack in the building says, yes. Thank you for joining. Well, guys, that's the intel that I had for those out there that want to know what's going on with the RV. The title of the video, once again, was, let me go to where I wrote it down, is why the GCR is an acronym for Global Currency Reset / Dinar Foreign Currency Revaluation has been delayed for so many years. And I was going into, I discussed, in my opinion, different reasons. Some of my sources was shared to me, allegedly. And also, lastly, check out the videos that I did about the connection to XRP Ripple. One of the sources I forgot to mention, a conference call out there, if I heard some calls that went private, was saying allegedly when you go to exchange your dinar, I don't know if this is true because I don't know how things are going to play out. So you guys just take the information as you will, saying you will get paid in XRP. So I don't know if they're going to do that, but I do know they changed things a long time ago. But I can't say things are going to stay the same. This is an evolving situation. Similar how law enforcement says this is an ongoing, similar to an ongoing investigation. This is evolving. Things have changed and have changed periodically throughout the years. And one thing I do know, over a decade ago, one of the sources told me that this other guy in the separate movement I study said they changed the whole banking system around. So this has been in the works for a long time, for quite a while. And I remember, I won't go into the details about this, something else I was part of, a source mentioned this, that this had been in the works for quite a while, quite a number of years. So I want to thank you all for joining. If you liked this video, if it was informative, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can follow me at Dorsey's Resource. Don't forget to thumbs up the video if you like what I went over. If you like the content, feel free to share this video, subscribe to the channel, can follow me on social media. I'm on YouTube, of course. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. I'm on Truth Social. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Parler. Parler is my more liberal side. Parler is my more conservative side. Instagram is my more liberal side, by the way. Very well balanced. Went over a lot of information, but if that's where I'm at on social media, if you guys, want to check me out, the rare times that I do pop up on there or whatever, if you guys want to touch bases with me in other areas, I do understand this information. For some, it can be a bit much. I encourage you guys to have fun, enjoy your life in other areas. You don't have to be overly consumed by this information. I know I've been accused of this, but I still have fun. Stay upbeat. I'm very patient out there. It'll happen whenever it happens. You just got to let it come. So with that being said, the marathon will continue. Real legends never die. They stay in our hearts. Until next time, guys, appreciate you joining. Everybody have a blessed night. Adios, arrivederci, ashe, buenos noches. Until next time, deuces.